There's this quiet crisis happening right now, a crisis of faith. And honestly, the common answers we hear just don't seem to be cutting it. So today, we're going to dig in and explore what might be the real reason an entire generation seems to be walking away.
It almost always starts with this feeling, right? This quiet sense of disconnection. It's usually not some loud rebellion or an angry protest. It's more of an emptiness, a feeling that the connection everyone talks about, well, for them, it just isn't there. So what is really going on behind a statement like that? Now, the easy answers are always right there on the surface. We love to blame social media or the culture or just the endless distractions of modern life. And look, those things might play a part, for sure. But what if the real diagnosis is something much, much deeper, something we've been overlooking for generations? Well, Scripture actually gives us this incredibly powerful clue. This verse from the book of Judges is talking about a generation that completely lost its way. And what's so fascinating is the reason it gives. It doesn't say they were defiant or that they rebelled. It says they simply didn't know the Lord. And that one simple distinction, that little word, it reframes the entire problem. We might not be looking at a generation of rebels. We might be looking at a generation that inherited a bunch of stories but completely missed out on the actual relationship. They weren't defiant. They were just disconnected. So to really get this, we have to understand what that word knew means. In the original Hebrew, the word is yada, and this isn't about knowing facts or data, like you'd know something from a textbook. Yada is a deep, personal, hands-on, experiential kind of knowing. It's the kind of knowledge that only comes from a real relationship, from shared experience.
And the difference here is just massive. It's one thing to have information about God, to know the stories, the doctrines, all the rules. But it is something else entirely to have a personal encounter, to know God in that yada sense. One is just head knowledge. The other is a genuine heart transformation.
And this right here is the danger zone. When we start substituting information for a real encounter, we end up creating an illusion of faith. It looks real, it sounds real, but it has zero power to actually transform someone because it's not rooted in a living, breathing connection. So this leads to the big question, right? If this generation is so disconnected, how in the world did that happen? Where did this whole breakdown in passing down faith really occur? Well, the hard truth is that the failure might not just be on the younger generation. The previous one, with the best of intentions, did an absolutely brilliant job of passing down an environment. They built the churches, they ran the programs, they created a whole culture of faith. But the one thing they failed to pass on was the encounter itself. They handed down this beautiful container for faith, but not the living presence of God that was actually meant to fill it.
Let's break that down a bit. This new generation inherited amazing stories about what God did in the past, but not personal encounters with what He is doing now. They received a religious identity, I'm a Christian, but not real intimacy. They saw faith modeled perfectly on a stage, but they didn't see it imparted in the quiet, messy, private moments of life.
And here's the bottom line. An environment, no matter how perfect or well-crafted it is, cannot sustain a person's faith in the long run. It just can't. Only the genuine, personal, experienced presence of God can actually do that.
So what's the solution? What's the fix? Well, it's about removing the middleman. See, the whole purpose of Jesus wasn't to start another complicated religious system. It was to tear down all the walls and give every single one of us direct access to God.
I mean, Jesus himself defines the goal, and listen to the word he uses, that they may know you, not just know about you. He's talking about that deep, relational, yada connection we talked about. This is the entire point of everything. Because of him, the entire model gets flipped on its head. No one has to rely on their parents' faith anymore, or their pastor's experiences. The invitation is for a direct connection, for you. It means no more secondhand faith, no more borrowed encounters. Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, but how do we actually move from theory to reality? Let's talk about two really practical steps to move away from that secondhand faith and toward a genuine encounter. All right, first up, pursue presence over performance. This means we have to stop measuring our faith by a checklist of religious activities, all the things we do, and start building it around the person we know. It's about setting aside time not just to read about God, but to just be with Him. And second, make your faith personal, not just visible. This is huge, especially if you're leading other people. Don't just show them the polished, perfect version of your beliefs. Show them your authentic walk, the struggles, the victories, and what God is teaching you right now, not just what He did thousands of years ago.
So as we wrap this up, this is really the question we're left with. Does this generation really need more polished sermons, better produced content, and more cool programs? Or do they desperately need a real, authentic encounter with the living God? Because the answer to that question, well, it changes everything.